Hello and welcome to Gravitas Wins Conversations. Today, I'm excited to talk to Anuj Magazine. He's a director at an e-commerce company, but that is not why I'm talking to him. Anuj does what I wish to do, sketchnoting. So I'm going to talk to him for selfish reasons. I want to know how he started, what he has learned, what are the tools that he is using, and what is his guidance for me to get started in sketchnoting. I hope you will also enjoy this conversation. Hello, Anuj. Welcome to the conversation.
Hey, hi Joseph. Quite happy, quite glad to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Anuj, let's start at the beginning. How did you get started with sketchnoting?
Yeah, I think beginnings are always special. So, so is this question for me. I think it was about 2 or 3 years back or slightly more than that. I'm pretty much active on few of the social media, including LinkedIn, which is more off late. But before that, it was on Twitter. So in Twitter, I saw a few of the people, are very passionately sharing messages using visual medium, and I didn't know at that time that this medium is called as sketchnoting, and it kind of uh, piqued my curiosity and it kind of interested me a lot. And if I look back at my own life, most of the interests that have sort of clung on to me for a longer period of time, call it reading, writing, long distance running, graphology. I think all of them, I found one similarity. I think all of them actually started with a spark of inspiration. One of the things that I learned over a period of time was, when you get a spark of inspiration, never let it go waste. So and do something about it. So my whole journey started with the inspiration of few of the people who I saw sharing sketch notes, and that's how I kind of got interested into it.
Okay. You said you are a marathon runner and you are a director in a full time job in a company. And I think you are having about 19 patents or something like that, right?
Yeah.
How do you find time for sketchnoting?
Yeah, I think this is it. I would like to. I mean, time. I guess all of us have in equal proportions in our lives. So it is more a matter of trying to figure out what interests you. Actually, on the matter of time, I'm always reminded of one of my friends. He's actually quite active uh, in the space of social work, and he kind of finds way to figure out, use whatever discretionary time that he has to go out there and help people almost selflessly. So I one of the days I happened to ask him, right, how do you find time for doing so many activities that you do? And it was like years back. I think it was maybe around 15 years back that I asked him, and the response that he gave me kind of stayed with me over a period of time. What he said to me was that it's always about priority, right? I think all
Hmm.
of us end up doing what we end up doing. uh, Whatever we end up doing is kind of driven by what we think is high priority. And if we
Hmm.
align our priorities during the day, I'm sure, I think all of us can find time to do wonderful things. Uh, and I'm sure, like, a lot of people do wonderful things with their time over a period of time. So I think that is one sort of, if I may, at the risk of reusing the phrase that I use, the spark of inspiration, that by just managing your priority and managing your energy, I think you will be able to do slightly more things than what you normally end up doing.
Okay. So you talk about the priority and the energy. So when is your energy the most for sketchnoting?
Yeah, that's quite interesting question. If you ask me, like, the entire sketchnoting process, there are different phases to it, right? I think
Uh-huh.
when I'm actually conceptualizing what I need to sketch on, I don't think mornings are a great time for me. Normally I tend to use my sleep time, and I say sleep time. It is like usually after I sleep. And I'll come to that, to really form some ideas on what I need to sketch note on. And if you look at the remaining part of the sketchnoting process, which is actually when rubber hits the road, when you're actually you know pen meets the paper, that process actually is quite split across the day. But I do tend to start early, quite early, in the day. And uh, the process that I have evolved over a period of time, it was more a subconscious evolution of process, allows me to break the entire sketchnoting process into micro steps, and I kind of figure out when during the day I find time, and kind of fit those micro steps in, and over a period of time, everything gets stitched up and gets shown as a eventual sketch note.
Very true. Can you go a little deeper into that micro step that you talked about?
Yeah,
So
so
how does that micro step look like?
Yeah, so I think what I believe, right, after the idea has been conceptualized, and if you look at the anatomy of a sketch note, every sketch note will have a title. Every sketch note will have various structural elements to it, including how you want to portray certain information, and what visual language you want to use to portray that information. So there are, in addition to the title, there are building blocks to a sketch note, and those building blocks, at the fundamental level, are basic shapes and forms, right? I think they,
Hmm.
if you see, like, sketchnote is not a as complicated an art as Mona Lisa or any other art form which is there, but it is a different type of an art form which you can imbibe and use by following a basic, Mike Rody's, whose book I kind of read and
Yeah.
got inspired from. He talks about, like, basic shapes, right? If you know how to draw a circle, how to draw a line, how to draw a dot, how to doodle around, I think you will have everything that you know to form a sketch note. So there are micro steps which involve how the title should look like, how my font should be, what should be the color combination of it, and these are the micro decisions that needs to be made in the whole process of forming a sketch note. So my process, I prefer to have a full clarity, like, like Stephen Covey said, begin with end in a mind. So I am quite driven by that as far as the sketchnoting process is concerned, because I need to, the fact that I'm able to divide it into micro steps. One of the biggest reasons why I'm able to do that is because I exactly know, where I want the sketch note to go. Of course, you improvise a lot of things on the way, but the end structure, and how the color combinations will play out, what kind of visual vocabulary I'll end up using, that gets formulated as a part of when I'm conceptualizing the sketch note.
Okay. So you are starting at the end, begins at the
Yeah,
end. So that's okay. And you talked about the micro steps.
yeah,
So let's talk about the conceptualization first.
yeah,
Okay. So you are reading a book, you are reading a Twitter thread,
yeah.
or you are reading a piece that you want to sketch note, or so in that particular case, how do you decide what to take, what to leave out, and what ends up in the sketch note?
Yeah. So I think you asked a very good question. You phrased the question very well, because you not only said what should be added, you also said what should be moved out of a sketch note. So the whole process, my start point, right, is whether the topic that is being talked about is, one of the heuristic it has to serve is whether it is exciting me a lot. Like, it has to,
Mm.
I have to feel like a kid, right? I didn't know this, and now I'm starting the process of discovery as I'm learning to simplify a concept which I knew or probably didn't know it before, but now I have an opportunity to really break it down into the pieces and show. So I think it is important. Number one heuristic is that the whole topic should excite me. I'm not even
Mhm.
thinking of audience at that time, right? It goes out to, if you share it in social media, there is a every chance and potential that it gets shared, but that's not the goal. I think it starts with a pure form that the topic should excite. And the second part that I have consciously done as a part of my sketchnote process is the ideas that I end up sketchnoting are what I call as timeless ideas, right? In my my mind, my understanding, a timeless idea is a one which will be relevant maybe 20, 30, 50 years from now, right? I think
Hmm.
if my son is seeing that sketch note when he starts working, which is still some time away, I think he should find those relevant. So that timelessness is important. I think that is one of the reasons why I put date in my sketch note, is because I do want to be able to see it many years down the line and see whether that idea still stands test of time or not. So these two things are very important to me at the time of conceptualizing, right? What really should I go ahead and sketch? Like, number one, whether the idea excites me. Second, whether the idea is a timeless idea or not. So I'm kind of driven by these two things.
Okay. So you selected these two ideas,
Yeah.
or rather, you selected an idea based on these two factors.
Yeah.
How do you sleep over it? How do you get this in your dream?
Yeah, no, I think so. So the sleeping over, there was very interesting book by Matthew Walker called as "Why We Sleep," and I did a sketch note on that too. I think this is it kind of unthreads the whole concept of sleep, right? I think one of the biggest problems with the urban life is that we tend to give very less priority to sleep. I think things are changing. People are getting more aware about it, and probably the whole facet of less sleep has blown out of proportion during this pandemic times, where people are virtually hooked on to their work at really odd hours. So this Matthew Walker talks about this concept of sleep as a source of information alchemy, right? And there are different facets of sleep. One is rapid eye movement sleep, other is non-rapid eye movement sleep. So rapid eye movement sleep, he says, if you are in one of the stages of rapid eye movement, which is REM sleep, what happens is what he calls as information alchemy. In information alchemy, what happens is that this is the time when ideas in your head subconsciously date with each other and something magical comes out. And more often than not, I've kind of gotten into this habit of feeding in ideas in the head and just see like what happens, right? I think that's how I kind of started. But I think what I figured out was that I may not have like everything sorted out when I get up in the morning, but you still feel lighter, right? I think that that whole information alchemy process, it really gets you closer to the solution, if not to the solution. So to me, I think that is important. Whether I have to kind of feed any sort of a sketch note designs in my head before I sleep, or feed in the ideas that I want to sketch note on. I think both of these, sleep is an ally. I can't stress it enough. It's not that like you kind of overthink things in your sleep, but over a period of time, what I've realized is, with the quality of sleep, the quality of ideas also improve.
Wonderful. I think probably, as you rightly said, when we sleep more, we rest more. And when we are rested more, our art mind kicks in, and then we are able to create that. Okay. So you have selected an idea because of those two factors that you talked about, and then you have conceptualized it, you have slept over it. Do you sketch every day?
I do sketch every day now. I think there are different types of sketch note. If I need to like broadly classify them, one is where you are really looking to present a summary of a large article or a summary of a book, and other are what I call a single idea sketch note, right, where you're just talking about one idea and taking that idea further to sketch. So the ones which have four or five or even more ideas in there, those usually take longer period of time for me to conceptualize and get it ready. But single idea sketch notes, I tend to do it in one setting. If not in one sitting, maybe between two or three setting, because every iteration really makes the sketch note better. So I tend to do it every day, but I also realized over a period of time that it is important to give yourself a mental break every now and then. And the fact that I run also, it kind of helps because it takes your mind off the stuff which can you can really get engrossed in the art, right? So you got to take enough breaks. So I try to do, it's not a sort of a set cycle when I sketch and when I don't, but I do subconsciously know that I need to take break, be it in a, 1 day, 2 day, or even if it is a few hours just away from it. So I do take breaks. So it is not a continuous process.
Okay. And then let's say, for example, you are sketching on a continuous basis every day. Okay,
Yeah.
without the break that you're talking about. Every day, how long, how many hours, or how much time you spend on sketching?
Yeah, I think that's a interesting question. I may need to go and see my iPad statistics, which I didn't yet. But one of the things I'd like to say is that the entire process that I talked about is quite disjointed. It is, I would say, it kind of lacks a coherent sequence or a connection. And when I say that, what I mean by that is, once you have conceptualized what you want to do, the actual process of sketchnoting, I I rarely get a time to do it in a stretch, right? Ideally, you would say that this is one of the activities which you might spend 2 3 hours and get it done in a stretch, but that's not what happens. I don't remember when was the last time I spent 2 3 hours into the sketchnoting process, right? I think it was it kind of it happens in breaks. Like I take maybe a session of 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I know what I have to draw during that time. I do that and maybe take break and do the work. I think a lot of time what happens is in between work, for example, during the lunch hour, I think in our organization we have a mandate that between 1 and 2 there won't be any meeting, and that's usually a break time where you kind of try and figure out how do you kind of recharge yourself and come back to work. So I do use some of that time, maybe bits and pieces, 5 10 minutes there to do a sketch. But and then I think I pick up maybe later in the evening or maybe early in the morning, and then I kind of get done with the whole process. So what I realized was, as long as you are aware where you are headed to as a part of your sketchnote design, even even uh, drawing a line is a progress, right? Even if I spend
Mm.
5 minutes and I draw, I only draw a line, but I draw it as well as I had imagined it to be. Then I think it's a progress for me. I mean, and that also comes to a point because sketchnoting is a art form which, as I have experienced it, it goes through a lot of process of you can call it rehearsing, you can call it repetitions, you can call it iterations, and the tool that you end up choosing for sketchnoting has to support that, has to make your process of iteration very easy for you.
Okay, so we'll come to tools and all of those things in a
Yeah.
minute. So okay, so you talked about. I think that is why that micro steps matter.
Yeah.
So you conceptualize it and you say, okay, this is how the end sketch or sketch note looks like.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to, maybe I have only 5 minutes, so I'm going to draw a line. Maybe I have another 5 minutes, I'm only drawing or writing the heading, and so on and so forth. So you break that down into micro steps and you achieve each of those steps.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you practice every day and then kind of discard some of those things? Like, say, for example, when I say practice, just drawing the lines or writing without an intention of a full-fledged sketch note, but it is more of as a practice of sketch noting. Do you do that? Or all the time when you are sketch noting, it is with an intention to publish?
Yeah, no, I think what one of the things that and it happened at a subconscious level that has happened since beginning when I started doing is that whenever I I took up sketchnoting, it was with the intention of coming out with an output. And
Okay.
I think so that it's not sounding too complex for the listener, because I was never an artist, right? I think this is a skill that I learned in the last 2 3 years. So one of the ways that I started my journey was I picked up a sketch note which I liked a lot, and without intention of distributing it, I just pick up a pen and paper and just started copying that sketch note line by line.
Mm.
So that act of doing that, I realized, helped me get in the mind of the person who actually wrote it. I think it didn't happen like in one or two. It was a process that happened over a period of time. But if you're looking to learn, I think one of the best way to learn is, just pick up your pen and paper, just pick up a sketch note that you like, and just copy it as is, like your own process will always follow. So, like they say, imitation is the start of creativity, right? I think you start, and then and that's what it helped me. I think it helped me get into the mind of people who, I admired and I followed, and help me break up the process for them. Because what's happening is, like, this whole process of copying a sketch note line by line, it takes time. I think it won't happen in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You need to spend some time, and after you spend that much time, I think your mind, that idea, the new pathways start to develop in your mind, which helps you
Mm.
in your process later on. So for me, that was the start. And the second aspect that I've tried to do with my sketchnote, if you observe them in a sequence, one of the things that I've tried to do is, every time it's a kind of a pact that I have with myself, that every time um, I sketch something, I have to introduce a new element which I had never done before. It may be a
Mhm.
simple way of creating a bubble which includes a text, or it can be a new color that I end up using. It can be a new font that I end up using. It has to be, every sketch note has to have some new element. It can be a very small element, but it has to have a small element. Unless and until we what I realized was, unless and until I include variety in the process, I'm into the whole motivation will die down over a period of time. So I think that whole quest for uh, getting that novelty, getting that one additional new thing, is one of the factors that has, I believe, kept me going.
Okay. One of the things you talked about this colors, one of the things that I have seen very different from your sketch note and so many other people's is the bright colors.
Yeah.
Uh, is there any specific reason, or is just a practice, or is it a kind of an eye towards that?
No, I think I feel I have developed. I think not every time it works and it looks, because it looks good. If I look back after few weeks, I realized, no, man, I think this didn't look as good as I thought it will look. As I thought it will look. But over a period of time, and it's also a subject of experimentation, right? I think it's
Mm,
like
mm.
not sticking with one sort of a color and introduce some variation in there. So I do look back at the sketch notes, and not with the intention of being critical, but once you are scrolling down and seeing, okay, if I have to redraw this now, how would I redraw? Like, how would I reimagine the same ideas being represented? So that is another sort of a quest, that I'm chasing. But colors, like, I think it is more a knack, which I kind of and still in process of learning, but also developing at the same time.
Yeah. So you talked about maybe reviewing or retro, you can call it as,
Yeah.
rather than being a critical one. So you look at some of the sketch and say, hey, something I could have changed,
Yeah.
or I could redraw it in a different way. So do
Yeah.
you go back and redraw any of the sketches?
I do that. I do that. I think a few of them I end up publishing also. I think the one of the ones that I did, I think 1 or 2 weeks back, was on product thinking. So I
Yeah.
drew that, I think 6 months back. Then
Okay.
I think for some thing at work, I was trying to get uh, you know I was involved in deciphering that a little bit more at that, and I realized that the one that I drew some time back, it was not that. Maybe I have a different way to imagine that right now. So I did that. I think I do that often. That some, like I said, like,
Okay.
these ideas are timeless, so they can be
Hmm.
represented in a different ways. And I do. Um, uh, I don't do it as often, and that is also conscious because I think maybe more greedy part of me which wants to learn new things rather than reinvent the previous ones which are there.
Okay. Uh, Now that we are talking about some of the sketches, what was the most challenging sketch and why?
I think I don't think I can handpick one of them, but I think, for example, this sleep one, which I did some time back, like why we sleep. I think at that time, one of the things that I was trying to do was to conceptualize the whole concept of sleep with the whole concept of sketchnote with the whole act of sleeping, right? It had to have some metaphorical similarity with the in terms of colors and the way we do stuff there. So I think that I would say was it took time. I think it took quite a bit of iterations. Second, I would say, the technological concepts, right? I did one on blockchain, then I did one on APIs, and there are a few others which have not released because they're meant for some project that I'm doing. I think most of the technical concepts, which are the whole act of simplifying them, that is challenging because the
Hmm.
way we have like over jargonized technical world as it is, and the whole act of deciphering that and making it simple for people, that is challenging, and I relish that challenge because uh, I think that has a possibility to reach a lot of people and simplify their lives. So I think these two, I would say, kind of categories where you have to you have to map the sketch with the how the thing will be in the real life, and second is the technological concepts.
Okay. And what are the tools you use?
Yeah, I actually started the whole sketchnoting journey with uh, I had pen and paper. I think over a period of time,
Okay.
I did that for quite a bit of time. I think one of these speeches that I did with Illinois Institute of Technology in 2018, that was like one of the first sketches that I did, you know, uh, with just pen and paper, and I liked the whole process there. Till I discovered the digital sketchnoting, and what I liked about the whole process of pen and paper style sketching was that you get that real feel, right? I think you have that paper and you've like
Hmm.
grown up doing that over a period of time, but it became unmanageable about after a while, simply for a reason that my whole color box, I had to like carry this bigger box to any place where I kind of went, and it became difficult to manage over a period of time. I still have that box like lying around in my room, which I sometimes used to scribble on. But I think digital sketchnoting I started with, it was with a Windows 10 laptop. I believe it was a Lenovo laptop. Lenovo had this yoga series which used to come with
Hmm.
stylus. So I migrated to that and enjoyed doing it till I think the whole device broke up because I was kind of overusing the screen, which more often than what it was designed for. But I think after I discovered iPad as a means to sketch, I have not looked back. I think that is just amazing. As in terms of various factors, I think I use a Procreate app. I think before I used Procreate, I used Paper by 53 and few other apps. But Procreate, along with iPad and Apple Pencil, I think that's a sort of a combination that I don't think I'll kind of get away from, at least in a foreseeable future. Procreate, why? Because, like I said, the whole act of sketchnoting, it involves a lot of iterations, lot of repetition, a lot of rehearsals of the whole concept, the way you lay out, and it makes it easy for you to undo things. I think it is important to know, it is important to understand as a part of the sketchnoting process. Doing something, doodling something is as important as undoing something. So With just a tap you can just undo if you didn't like what you want to do. And if I had to do the same thing on paper, I had to be extra cautious,
Mm,
because paper
mm,
makes you the whole process very cautious, because you have to be in the mindset of doing the things right the first time. Whereas if you are
mm.
on a digital medium, you know that you can undo it anytime that you would like to. So I like undoing feature more than any other pens and brushes that it gives me.
Okay. And in Procreate, do you have any special pens and the brushes, or you use a default one, or do you create one?
No, I think I've not. I have used exported some of the available brushes. I've not gotten into creating brushes yet, but I use a lot of them. I think Procreate comes with a lot of default brushes, and whenever I use one, I get reminded of when I started using pen and paper, because each of these brush that I end up using multiplied by number of colors which are there used to be like that big box that I was talking about. But now it is
True,
like
true.
with a click of tap of pencil, you're able to very easily get to the color you want. So, but I try to vary it as much as possible. I think one of the things that I used to do better when I used pen and paper was that I used to experiment a lot with the font,
Mm,
which I need to start doing. I have a default way of writing like everyone else's. I think I more often tend to lean to that way of writing. When I was actually doing on pen and paper, I used to experiment far more with font than I do right now, which is something
okay.
I want to experiment a little bit more on digital medium.
Okay. So if I were to start today, uh, first of all, can I learn the skill? And how would you encourage me? These are the steps you should take to come to this kind of sketchnoting. What would you say?
Sure. Yeah, I think anyone. I think I just wish sketchnoting started with a D, because I could have used that phrase ABCD, like anyone can dance, anybody can dance. But I think
Yes.
but the fact is, like, anyone can do it. I think it's a matter of I think staying with a habit. I think more often we start something and we don't
Hmm.
continue with it often. And also, it is important to attach a purpose to why we are trying to do what we are trying to
Hmm.
do, right? I think the purpose, if you have a purpose attached to it, I'm sure there are very few people who do podcasting like you are getting into. You're doing a great job of already,
Thank
and
you.
you have a broader purpose which it is serving you, I think. And if you attach that purpose to any skill that we want to learn, I think it becomes easier for us to go ahead with it. But on a tactical level, if we want to really go ahead and start investing time in it, I would say after attaching a purpose to it, it can be like, my job is highly technical in nature. People don't understand what I try and do. Let me help simplify what I do, right? That can be a purpose. After that,
Hmm.
just start. I think it is a matter of, initial sketches are not going to be great. I think you got to be very mindful of the fact that initial output, just equate with it with the first time you started to write, right? I think we were terrible. I think we were taught how to hold a pen. We were taught how to grip the pen. We were taught how to write on the surface, and we stumbled, but we hung on to it and we learned it. I think the same concept will apply here. It's just that being adults, our mind get more polluted with a lot of voices which says that I it's too old to learn and all that. I think it does not happen that way. So, like I said before, I think another tactical step is to pick up a sketch note that you love and just
Hmm.
start to copy it, line by line. Just don't start to apply thoughts like how can I change this and all. Just and stay with it. I think do it for two or three sketch note. I think you will get the hang of it, how the whole message is simplified and put forward. And third thing is, which I took time to learn, is the whole process of sketchnoting is more about subtraction than it is about addition, right? I think if you have a big book, and you have a medium which combines both text as well as it combines visuals. uh, I think we got to be very choosy about what is the core theme. I think that comes with
Mhm.
practice, but we should be open to subtracting. I think, that is one part that I took a while to understand, and still learning about it. That what should I omit, right? What is the detail which is not needed? And that skill, I figured out over a period of time that it helped me a lot in my job, right? I think you subconsciously you are building a skill to cut out the noise in the process, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think that kind of helps in a very various very different ways.
So you talked about copying as a first step to learning the skill. So in that particular sense, who are your inspirations
Oh yeah,
for sketchnoting?
I think I have to, like, if I have to name one person, it has to be Tanmay Vora. I think he does
Yeah,
a fantastic job. I think
amazing.
yeah, I've followed his work for a long period of time. I've spoken with him, and learned from him a lot. Right? I think I attended one of his classes, but that was like just few weeks back. It was not at the start of my journey, but I did that just to just pick up, like, one or two or three or four more things that I can understand from his methods. I think he's there. Then Mike Rodies is there, whose book I started my whole journey with. And then Abhijit Bhaduri, I think he's another person
Mm.
whose sketch notes I followed during the initial period of time. Uh, but I think, yeah, his style is different than Tanmay's style, and Mike's style is also very different over a period of time. So you have that amalgamation of uh, things that you end up learning with people. One of the things that I learned is that if you want to become a good writer, you read a lot of stuff, right? I think
Yeah.
if you want to, there was this javelin thrower, not like Neeraj. I think before Neeraj, in 2016 Rio Olympics, Julius Yago, I think he won the silver medal in the Olympics. But I think one of the things that I recall from him is that this guy learned javelin by just watching YouTube videos, and he was like a world champion and all that. So if you want to learn javelin, you watch a lot of javelin video. If you want to become a better cricketer, better
Mm.
watch how Virat Kohli does that cover drive. And like the same principles apply to sketchnoting also. If you want to become a good sketchnote artist, you got to be consuming a lot of sketch notes you on a regular basis.
Mm.
You asked me earlier whether I sketch every day. I may not. I think, like I said, the need to take break. But one of the things that I try to do is to I see sketch notes every day, just to pick up on inspiration and try to kind of decipher the mind of a person on why and how he or she has made that kind of a visual. So I think this is all part of learning process.
Okay, you talked about some of the lessons. One of the key thing that you talked about is you learn to subtract rather than add,
Yeah.
and pass out, or rather take out the signal and the noise.
Yeah.
Are there any other learnings you have learned in the last years of sketchnoting
No, I
other than
think
learning sketchnote itself?
no, absolutely. I think if I need to call one thing, that would be, uh, you talked about the sketchnoting ideas and how I pick up subject. I think one of the driving principles for me, which again I learned from one of the blog that Tanmay had, around the whole notion of consuming less and creating more. Okay, I think
Mhm.
I like to read a lot. I think I had maybe 5, 6, 7 years back the goal of I used to have the goal of reading number of books, which over a period of time I've stopped, chasing that kind of a goal for various reasons. I think, but I think one of the thing that I learned was that the whole notion, because I think we have all become consumption machines, as
Mm.
whenever the advent of social media, and more than social media, I think the guy who invented infinite scroll, right? Which is causing to all the worries, uh, worries that we have. So consumption, of course, I think it's a critical element in our ability to create anything. But so consumption itself by itself is not bad, right? You need content, but the problem is like we have become consumption machines by default. So one of the things that I consciously worked on was to consume mindfully, having the right set of filters in place on what kind of information really uh, attracts me. And I think that is a feeder, right? If you look at the sketchnoting process, it starts with you consuming an idea and then that itch to simplify that idea over a period of time. But if you are loading your funnel with more than what you can handle, it is very hard to come up with the right kind of output. So I think it is important to consume mindfully. It is important to know that less is more when it comes to consuming the right kind of content. And that some of the time that I saved by having those vanity goals of reading entire book, I invested in maybe reading part of the book and maybe spending rest of the time in simplifying the whole messages that I want to as a part of sketchnote. So consume less and
Okay.
create more is one of the biggest learnings that I've consciously worked on in the last I would say few years.
Very true. Very true. Thanks for sharing that. Uh, you talked about sketching and then going for a jog, maybe on a everyday basis or on a skip basis. So what are the habits or what are your daily routines that help you to do whatever that you are doing, everything, like say for example sketchnoting, jogging, and your work, parenting? So what are the habits that help you to do these things as the best?
I think yeah, it's important to be in the right frame of mind, be it work or be it with the family, and I think a lot of things that we do on a daily basis, I believe, are interconnected. Um, I think in terms of habit, running, I think uh, I I do that at least. I think the training program that I follow for full marathons is requires me to run at least 4 times a week, and you end up doing like 5 or 6 times, rest a couple of days with very short sort of a jog. I think that is important because that helps you clear your mind fully. And then the whole I think work part, I would say the habit that work, I think in at work, contrary to the way I do sketchnoting, it has to be a series of deep work and shallow work. I think when I mean deep work is a good part of what you end up doing as a part of the work. At least the profile that I'm handling requires me to be doing the deep balancing deep work with the shallow work. And when you are answering emails and all, you need not be like as deeply
Hmm.
engrossed as when you are building a maybe proposal or building the next working on architectures and stuff like that. So I think that having a balance is important. I think there was this good analogy that I read over Twitter sometime back, right? Working like a lion against working like a buffalo, right? So lion probably
Hmm.
works a few times a day, but during the time lion is hunting, it is with the full energy. Then after that, it takes rest and comes back. Whereas maybe buffalo is whole day doing similar side of work. So I think it's not that for certain type of work you got to be lion, but certain type of work you got to be buffalo. And then I think one habit that I said, to read something before you sleep, just to allow for, um, you know, one is like time away from screen, like not seeing the screen before you're going for bed, because I think it is proven, I believe, scientifically that it impairs your ability to sleep well if you're seeing the screen just before you're sleeping. So I tend to like switch off 30 minutes before sleeping and try to read something, the topic which is of interest that day, and take that
Okay.
forward. Yeah, these are few of
Okay.
the things I think which I believe helps me.
Thank you. I think each bit, as you said, everything is interconnected. So each bit of your habit helps you to do the best work. So thanks for sharing that. Couple of last questions,
Yeah.
Anuj. Uh, One time you also sketch noted about leadership. So, in your opinion, what are the characteristics of a great leader? And if you can give some examples, who are they?
Yeah, I think so. Leadership is a very broad topic, and I tried to scratch. I think that there are a few sketches that I have done over a period of time. But I think one of the things that I learned in my career about leadership is the concept of being a giver. I believe being a giver is a very, very important concept of being a leader. And I think one of the books that I read that changed my perspective about giving was this book called as Give and Take by Adam Grant.
Mm,
And
mm,
I think that the book, and it has some parallels on why I sketchnote also. I think it's not for any sort of external validation, but I think it's maybe giving for the sake of giving, right? I think you help someone become better. I think over a period of time, when we hang our boots and careers is over, I think maybe those things matter more than anything else. So the concept of giving, I believe, is very important. I think leadership to me is one of the most noblest profession, because you are in a profession where you can really create the right amount of difference, right kind of difference in the mind of people. And how do you do
yeah,
that? I think the second lesson, of course, is about empathy, right? And it's quite hard. I think this empathy gets used as a buzzword a lot these days, but I think it is one of the hardest things to, in my opinion, to become empathetic, really know what's happening in the lives and the minds of people, and really, you know, align yourself as a leader to, to serve the people with empathy, which I believe is a very underrated, but at the same time, I think quite difficult to achieve. I think this is maybe a
yeah.
constant thing to strive. Yeah, I would say these two things, giving and the act of giving selflessly, and empathy as key leadership traits.
Very true, very true. What's the kindest thing someone has done for you?
Yeah, that's actually uh, now that I think you asked this question, there was one time, I was like always fascinated by, not with bikes, but with a very particular bike, Royal Enfield, right? I always wanted to
Uh-huh.
buy when I was in college. Of course, early days you didn't have as much, as many means to buy it, but I happened to buy, I think I was in Bangalore only, and I bought and I still have that Royal Enfield, and I was coming from the shoe, from the showroom, and I was, standing on a signal. I noticed that my shoelace was open, and I became very conscious, like, and I was in middle of the traffic, and I kind of tried to, while on bike, I was just trying to get down or maybe put my feet up to, tie my shoelace, and I could not do that. And there was this gentleman who was passing by the road, and he saw me struggle a little bit, and I was also conscious because this was the first time I was driving this bike, and I didn't know what to, how to, like, put up a stand and then and do the stuff. And this guy simply comes and, bends down, he ties my shoelace which was open, and he just smiled and he went away. And I, could not, and that kind of, something sort of snapped within me at that time, right? I think, people, how can people be so selfless, right? That they first is like, I didn't even ask for help, and he, this guy
Mm,
saw it. And the worst part is I don't even know his name. I think only way I realized to kind of thank him is to pay that forward. So I uh, not try to look for only the opportunities where people have to, having difficulty
mm.
tying their shoelaces, but any other ways in which they can, I can go and help out people.
Yeah, you rightly said, Anuj. The only way we can pay back to the people that who have helped us is by paying it forward.
Yeah.
And that, That's how humanity is thriving. With all the problems in the world, I think the only way the humanity is thriving is because of the people, the selfless people who are paying it forward. Uh, what's the definition of living a good life?
Oh, that's quite a deep question. I think if I need to look back at my life, I think it all starts with a family. So, of course, I think the society you live in, you have a great deal of responsibility too. But I think to me, I think it has always revolved around playing the roles as well as I can of a son, of a spouse, a sibling, and of a father. Right. I think it's a lot of my life has revolved around uh, coming through this, and then also I feel it is important to uh, give back in whatever shape and form you can. I think the biggest form of giving back, I believe, is giving your time and attention to someone, and also I think pick up a cause. Like all of us are cannot be uh, you know Azim Premji or Bill Gates when it comes to philanthropy, but I think in our small bit ways we can go ahead and help out the world. I think in my world, I've been fascinated by Olympic sports. I think there are a lot of other bigger problems that we have in humanity, but I think one of the things that I have done in last 7 8 years is to support this NGO called as Olympic Gold Quest, which supports which who has a mission of making India win gold medals. I think that is my sort of uh, cause that I picked up for society, where I contribute and with full heart and support in addition to finding other ways, right, wherever I can.
Very good, very good. Thanks, Anuj, for sharing that. Where can people find you online?
Oh yeah, I think I'm pretty much on Twitter. So at the rate Anuj Magazine. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn as well. I think these are the two platform. Facebook, I think I'm there, but not very active on that. Instagram also same thing, not quite active. So I think these two places I'll be available, and I do. One of the things that I've tried to do in the spirit of giving back to professionals is that I kind of make sure to respond to each and every message that I get on LinkedIn. I may not be like as prompt always, but I think within certain time I do kind of reach out and respond to everyone who have reached out to me
Uh,
or something. Yeah.
Thanks, Anuj. I think we have a lot more to speak
Yeah.
and we can go on speaking. And I think probably I will invite you for another session on leadership, empathy, and paying it forward. So we will have that. But now, thank you for taking your time for this particular podcast. I have learned a lot about sketchnoting, and probably I will try out my hands on the sketch notes and I will share it with you. And as Tanmay inspired you, probably you will inspire quite a lot of people to get into sketchnoting. Thank you for taking your time,
Sure.
Anuj.
Hey, thank you so much, Joseph. I think certainly uh, I think we spent like 40 45 minutes, but I think uh, the best 45 minutes of the day so far. So thank you so much for all the great questions and curiosity, and and all the great work that you're doing.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you, thank you, Anuj. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Anuj, and follow him on LinkedIn, Twitter. Ask him questions about sketchnoting. As he said, he likes to pay it forward, and he would inspire you. And he will also answer all the questions that you have. Also, check out my executive coaching program called Gravitas Wins. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you, and have a life of wins.